April's almost done, and it seems like spring is already basically over also. So I decided to do both a spring TBR and a book haul combination. Let's get into it. Okay guys, so in case you missed it, my winter TBR is finished and I'm now doing quarterly TBRs, which means to be read in case you aren't familiar. So I decided to try that out this year and I have to say that my winter TBR was a success. I got a lot of books done. My winter TBR was a challenge to myself to get done with a lot of the UK authors that have been on my list of shame for a very long time. I am happy to say that I got a lot of those done. I decided to go ahead and make an entire video talking about those books that I got done, so watch out for that video coming soon. For this video, I decided to do a quick update for my spring TBR by doing something a little bit less than conventional. I have had some really fantastic luck at some of my favorite secondhand bookshops, so I decided that I was going to share with you my spring book haul, and then I also added in just a couple of books that are then going to complete my pile, making it my spring TBR. Now before you panic, because I did looking at this stack, it's way too much. I am not going to get all of these books done. So let's get into this list. I have a pretty good mix of some older classic science fiction, some pulp science fiction, and then quite a lot of new science fiction. I am doing my May Finish the Series challenge. This is something that I do every single year, where for the entire month of May, I only read sequels in series that I have already started. That gives me an excuse to get done with and or significantly more advanced in many of the series that I have already started. So let's get into this list. So let's start with a couple of books that I've put specifically on top so I can talk to you about some book series I'm hoping to finish in May. The first one is the Final Architect series. This is one that is on my list of shame that I still haven't finished by Adrian Tchaikovsky. So I own both of the second and the third books to complete the series, and I have decided that I really want to push myself this May and read both of those books so that way I can complete this trilogy. Another one that I'm really excited to try out is 2010. Now, I did finally read 2001, video to come on that, but I really want to decide if I want to read the sequels or not. And the way to do that, especially in my month of May Finish the Series challenge, is to pick up a copy and read it. So these are two series that I'm really planning on either continuing with or finishing, and I'm pretty excited to do so. Let's get into the stacks. Starting with some of the more vintage ones. The first one I have is this incredible copy of the science fiction quiz book. I had a really good time flipping through this in the bookstore, and I cannot wait to read some more. I thought this would be something fun that if I find some real gems, I could make a video on, or I could just entertain myself with this old science fiction quiz book. So this was a really fun find for me. The next is one I've been meaning to try to get a hold of, and that is Rax by Michael Coney. This is a British or UK author, I believe, and is one that I was hoping to get done with for my winter challenge, but didn't quite happen. So kind of a nice thin book. It is one that I'm hoping to get to for my spring TBR. Then we have a really fantastic copy of Schismatrix. This one does have a little bit of spine wear, but I don't care about that because I just want to read the book. So this one was one that I keep hearing about and I'm really excited to get to. Then we have one that looks really interesting, The Syntic by Kornbluth. I can't tell you exactly why I picked this one up. I think it's the book cover, honestly. It has these red pages too, and it definitely does not have a barcode on the back, so maybe for my upcoming vintage video, I'm hoping this one is a good one. Next we have Cordwainer Smith, The Planet Buyer. This is one that I have been looking out for a while. Cordwainer Smith hasn't written a whole lot of actual novels, so someone gifted me a copy of his short stories, but I'd like to get to one of his novels to really decide if I like his writing or not, so this is something that I'm really excited about. Next is is Take Back Plenty. This is one that was recommended by my friend John from the Sci-Fi Scavenger. He really had a really good time with it and said that if I find a copy in the wild, I should check it out. So I picked it up. It's actually kind of a thick, chunkier book for an older story. So, still kind of excited about it though. Then I found a Sci-Fi Masterworks edition of Imperial Earth. This is a Arthur C. Clarke that I haven't gotten to yet, so I'm excited to check this one out. Next we have a kind of a crappy edition of The Quantum Rose by Catherine Asaro. This is one that won, I think, one of the Nebula Awards, and I've been kind of intrigued about it because it's supposed to be like a fairy tale in space. I don't know, I'm kind of intrigued to find out if this is something I would like or not. Couldn't pass that one up. Then I found a really pretty copy of Frederick Pohl's Starburst. This is one that I'm excited to get to. A lot of people have said that they enjoyed this book of him more than almost any of his other work. He's the author that wrote Gateway, so I'm very intrigued to see what else he can write. Then in the wild, I found a copy of John Wyndham's Web. This is a very controversial novel of his because it's the very last one, and he didn't finish it. It was published sometime after his death, so I'm not really sure what the ending is going to be like. So I'll have to check it out and make a decision on my own. Then I finally found a Bob Shaw book in the wild called Orbitsville. I've heard so much about this story, and I have really had a hard time getting a hold of anything by Bob Shaw. So I'm really excited. This one is probably one that's pretty high up on my TBR. I keep hearing a lot of really good things about it. We'll hopefully see a review from me shortly. Then we have a book that I keep running into that I decided to finally give in because it has maybe the most flashy cover of any science fiction book I've ever seen. This is called Mission to the Stars by A.E. Van Vogt, and it is super shiny. The entire back of the book is shiny and silver. And look at that cover, man. Isn't that just absolutely incredibly unique? I'm sorry if that's kind of out of focus, but trust me when I say it's super shiny and one of the most awesomely ridiculous covers that I own. I love it. Then I found this hardback omnibus edition of Virga 1.2. This is by Carl Schroeder. I believe it is an omnibus edition of 2 of the stories in his series. It is Son of Suns and Queen of Candescence. So this one looks really interesting. It is blurbed on the back by Peter Watts, which tells me something interesting. So I'm just kind of intrigued. I haven't read anything by this author before, and it was a very pretty omnibus edition, so why not? Then we have a book I'm really ridiculously excited to get into, and that is John Brunner's Crucible of Time. This is a book that I really want to read for an upcoming video, but also I just keep hearing awesome things about it. I'm a huge John Brunner fan so far. I have loved everything that I have read by him so far, and it looks to be an awesome book. So this is one that is pretty high up on my list. Then I found a copy that I didn't know existed of Larry Niven and Jerry Purnell's Inferno. Now, while this is definitely a newer version, this story is supposed to be a sci-fi retelling of Dante's Inferno. I am so in for this book. It's short, it looks interesting. What could go wrong? Then I found a book called Orbital Resonance by John Barnes. This is actually kind of a short little story that's supposed to start quite an interesting trilogy, and I never found this one in the wild before. I'm just really intrigued. I didn't know it existed, so I'm really excited to check it out. I also wanted to add to this, you may have already seen this in a previous book haul, but Cixin Liu's Ball Lightning. I really would like to get to this one here in the next couple of months. So this one I added to my list. You may have already seen that book though. I also added kind of a crappy movie edition of The Gunslinger, which is Stephen King's first book in his Dark Tower. This is one that I have decided I really want to prioritize this year. Now, it's not going to be until after May because it's starting a new series, but that's why I want to finish some of the other series so I can start new ones. This is a high priority series for me, so we'll see what I think. Then I have a brand new novella that is one of the Hugo nominees called The Practice, the Horizon, and the Chain by Sophia Samtar. This is like a nice little quick novella that I haven't read. And since it's a Hugo nominee, and also since I'm interested in novellas, I decided to pick up a copy, and I've heard a lot of really good things. So this one is hopefully going to be a short, easy read, so that should make it a higher possibility for my spring TBR. Next is a copy of Rainbow's End by Werner Vinge. This is a book that I did have to buy for myself in completing my Hugo winners. This is one that is actually really hard to find in the wild, at least for me. So I had to order a brand new copy of it, and it looks so pretty. I'm really excited to see what else Werner has to offer besides his Fire Upon the Deep series. Then we have a book that maybe none of y'all have heard of before. This is called Stardock by S.L. Viel. I don't really know how to say this person's name, but this looks pretty awesome. I am trying to pick up some more fun science fiction, and I think it's really interesting to see how people see the medical field in the future. This is an uncorrected proof, but man, is the font kind of nice to read. There's quite a lot of margins, so I'm really excited to pick this one up. The next two books are books that you have already seen. You already know I own them, but they are now really high on my TBR. The short Annihilation by Jeff Vandermeer. Yes, it does have a library barcode on the top because I got it at a library sale, but it's about time that I get this series started and find out if this is something that I like or not. So this is high on my TBR for this spring. And Kim Stanley Robinson's New York 2140. This is a book that you guys have seen before, but I just haven't gotten around to it because it's such a big chunker, and I didn't know when I was going to finish the Commonwealth Saga. So this is one that now that I'm finished, now that I have room on my TBR, I would really like to get this one done. If it doesn't get done in spring, it might end up being on my summer TBR too. We'll see. Okay, next on the list, I found two kind of used copies of Stanislaw Lem's Eden and then the Futurological Congress. These are books that I'm really excited about. Futurological Congress is more of a novella than anything else, and I've really wanted to try to read some more books by Stanislaw Lem. I didn't love the Solaris book. I know you guys, you can mention how your hate in the comments, but I didn't get along with it. And I have discovered that sometimes just because you don't like the author's most famous work, sometimes you like his less famous work. So I'm giving him a chance with these two stories because these are the ones that I happen to find in the wild. So this is kind of a newer version, and I really like that these versions match. So the Futurological Congress, it seems much shorter and easier to complete. So this is probably the one that I'm going to start with, but I am really intrigued by the premise of this story. It appears to be another First Contact by Stanislaw Lem. So here's hoping for that. Then I have Starfarers by Vonda McIntyre. I've only read one book by her, and I've heard this one is really good. It's also really interesting because it has like the peekaboo cover, which was very popular at the time. So I really enjoyed that, and I'm excited to get to this one. Our very last stack, finally, are just some random finds that, again, I'm really excited to get to. So the first one is Will McCarthy's Bloom. I hear about this a lot, and I don't really know a whole lot about it. It's just a book that seems to have quite a cult following, and it always comes up in lists of what science fiction books should I read. So this just is like a paperback edition copy, mass market. It is a science fiction book club selection. So if that means anything to anybody, it doesn't really mean much to me, but I am willing to give this book a try. Then I got a copy of The City of Last Chances by a subscriber. This is an Adrian Tchaikovsky book that a lot of people have talked about. It is fantasy, so I realize that for science fiction hardcore people out there, you may not be as excited about this one as I am, but it is nice to mix it up every now and then, and I do trust Adrian with my fantasy needs, so I'm really excited about this one. Thank you so much for the subscriber that sent it to me. Definitely on my TBR. Then we have a new copy edition of Camp Concentration by Thomas Dish. This is a looks almost new printing of this story. I think it's probably a newer print. I know that this story is really old though, but I don't mind if it's a new print, so I'm excited to get to read this story. Then in the wild, I found a couple of used and new copies of the Culture series. I found Matter and I found Surface Detail. I have decided after reading quite a few of these stories, I'm a huge Ian Banks fan and I cannot wait to read through the Culture. So I am slowly but surely collecting all of the stories. I also found a copy of Accession. This is the new version of it, and you can see like the old covers versus the new covers. I know this would probably drive some people a little bit crazy, but it is what it is if you find it in the wild. So I'm really excited to find copies of these and get to them hopefully this year, although I have to have something to look forward to next year. So I do plan on working my way slowly through the Culture. Then I found some other books. I found The Office of Mercy. This is a book that I have looked at in my library like 20 times, and I happened to find a nice copy of it at my half-price bookstore. And the font looks really good. The story is more of like a dystopian story that I'm really intrigued. So this is one that I'm pretty excited to check out. Then I have a copy of a book that is also fantasy that many of you may know. I found a copy of this book at my half-price bookstore. It's called Breach of Peace by the very popular booktuber Daniel Green. This isn't a book that I decided I was going to go out of my way to read, but it is a short little novella, and I have been thinking about doing a specific video on reading books by YouTubers and if they're any good. So I decided to pick up this book because I have a couple other booktuber books and I thought it might be a really fun video for the future. So we'll see when I get done with that. Then I have Mission to Mithone by Les Johnson. This is one of those Bane books that is really oversized. I love holding these books in my hands. They're very perfectly sized. And this one looks like just a fun science fiction read. I'm looking for some like fun adventure reads lately, so this one might be able to fit that bill. And last but certainly not least, we found a copy of Mission to Gravity, which is one that I have been really meaning to get to. It's a nice short little book with dyed edges and one that I am really excited for. That's kind of top of my TBR. And last but not least is a buddy read with my friend Rachel from the Shades of Orange. She and I are planning to get to Quantum's book, Fine Structure. This is a book that I gave her in my book box that I sent her. So I got myself a copy as well, and I'm excited to check that out with Rachel. And that's my most recent spring book haul combined with my spring TBR. I'm just kind of gonna feel my way through this and then for the next couple of months. But I know that this is too many books to get through for the spring, so some of these might bleed over into the summer, but I hope you won't mind forgiving me for some repeats, and I'm really excited to get to some of these books. Let me know in the comment section down below if you have any suggestions for which ones I should start with, which ones are better, which ones you think I would like the most, and until next time, you guys, see ya in the next video.